Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Bucking Bronco. Oh, come on, Cortana, don't do this to me. I'm Bucking Bronco 1968 coming back at you again, and I'm using that tag for a reason. And for anybody who has been following my channel for a little bit or just got started recently, I just want to throw this out to you. If you go back into some of my earlier videos, it says it, but I'm going to say it right here for the point of this video. I'm a Brony. I like My Little Pony. If you don't like that, I completely understand. This video is centered around that for some of the people who do and for another thing that I do. So if you don't like that, I completely understand. You guys can go ahead and bounce. I'm going to have a regular gaming video coming up soon, hopefully, which was something that me and my buddy Z, you remember him, if you watched Great Coasting, you remember him. Me and him threw something together, but I did a little mess up with my recording software, so you can't really hear us for a good half of the video very well. So I might end up just having to subtitle that or figure something out. So I apologize for that not being up already. I wanted to upload it that night, but then I realized the error, and it's just been a whole hullabaloo, and I've been busy a lot so far. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back to it yet, but that will be coming out soon. If you guys, so for everybody who wants to bounce, go ahead. Stuff will be coming out for you soon. For those who are staying around, you might know me from my fanfiction page, and you might know me from the stuff that I write over there. And if you remember correctly, it was either in Asphalt Cowboys or back when this is actually the original edit of Chapter 4 of When Only a Feather of Hope Remains, that I said I was going to be coming out explaining why it takes me so long to upload or update my stories, especially for Wolf 4, which is what I'm going to be referring to when Only a Feather of Hope Remains as, because that's the abbreviation. That is what you'll be seeing me refer to it as. So when you hear me say Wolf 4, I'm talking about Feather of Hope. So I promised a while back that I would explain why it takes me so long to update these stories, and why things like Feather or Wolf 4 get pushed to the side a little bit for things like Guild of Equestrian Railwaymen and my newest story, which is actually going to be turning into a bit of a one-shot series, Asphalt Cowboys. That's something that's going to be returning, and that's something I've been working on. And the reason for that is because there is a lot of work that goes into Wolf 4 that you guys don't see. So, for example, looking right here, this is the original, just before it was uploaded, edit of Chapter 4. Now, when I write these, I don't space them out like it is right now. I just write it in one big block, and then I go back through and space it out later. And that just works out better for me, because then I'm forced to reread the story to do the spacing, and that's how I try to catch myself with some of my grammatical errors. Obviously, if you've been sticking around with me for a while through my stories, you can see that that's not always the case. I don't always catch everything. There is a lot of stuff that slips through the cracks. Thankfully, going back to Z that I referred to earlier, Zenon, he's actually a brony and a good friend of mine, and he has volunteered to go through the bullshit that is my grammar errors and fix whatever he can find. And he's actually been a big help in not only editing the stories, but also writing them and making them better for you guys. So all the better. I finally got somebody on a sort of, I wouldn't say I don't have a team. I got a buddy of mine helping me out. I want to kind of build an editing team, but I'm still starting out, so you guys can understand that I'm still running this all as one person. And that's kind of why this stuff takes so long. I've said it before in blog posts, and I'll say it again here. I'm doing this as one person. I'm obviously not getting paid for it, and I get very busy with my life. I have college, I have high school. I'm actually taking both at the same time, which is a crazy system that I was able to get into, and it's actually very helpful for me, but it makes me incredibly busy. So I'm doing college, high school, and then I work, and I work a lot because I'm trying to afford fixing up my old truck. And I'm a car guy at heart, which is kind of why I've gotten into Asphalt Cowboys. I love big trucks and whatnot, so I'm trying to fix up my own, which requires me to have a lot of money because parts aren't cheap. So that's part of the reason why this stuff takes so long. But the other part is thinking these things up. So if I can remember correctly, and actually I can go and check my tools right here for this one. Yeah, so most chapters for When Only a Feather of Hope Remains, excuse me, When Only a Feather of Hope Remains, are 10,000 words long. And as you can imagine, I'm a pretty quick typer. I can bust out a 3-page college report in the span of a couple hours, and that's on a, well, this is actually a really small font, but that's on a basic font like this. Um, and I can do that in maybe an hour or two, but that's with me sitting down and dedicating to this. The reason this series especially takes so long is because I've had a lot of ideas for this series. I have a complete plan of where it's going and how it's going to get there. And inspiration comes to me sporadically. So a lot of times I'll be in school per se, and I'll come up with an idea, and I'm a very forgetful person. If I leave it to the point where I'm come home and I'll be like, "Damn, what was that idea for Feather Chapter 7?" And I actually have written advanced chapters out, not in their entirety, but in parts, so that I remember the idea. And then I have to continue off of that idea and whatnot. And what I've actually been doing, I've only done it for Feather of Hope because of how involved it is. I write all the chapters down in hard copy in paper before I come here and transfer them into digital so that I can put them on film. And that's my big problem, is because of how tedious of a system that is. For me, it just takes so long to do a transfer, and I hate doing it. And I can't stand it, which is something that I'm now trying to get away from. I'm trying to more freehand write Wolf War, as I do for Guild and Asphalt Cowboys. They are completely written just solely on here. In fact, if I may. So, for example, now that I finally found something that you're allowed to see, because I went through and I had to edit out a couple clips where I pulled up stuff that I couldn't remember the full name of because Google Docs doesn't show me the full name sometimes. And they were chapters that I'm working on for future, so you guys aren't allowed to see them. I'm not giving you spoilers. So this is actually my original first draft of Guild of Equestrian Railwaymen. And this entire thing, I believe, takes me up to Firebox. This whole thing takes me up through chapter 3 of Guild. Sorry, throat's a little dry. And it is 14,000 words long. This is 3 chapters of Guild, all completely written out. Just to the point, just before they exit the shop. Obviously, Guild is already 6 chapters in, and it's 30,000 words. So a lot of this stuff has been expanded upon. But this was where I started. I don't write a lot of what I do for Guild down on paper, and I don't write any of what I do for Asphalt Cowboys down on paper, unlike I do for When Only a Feather of Hope Remains. So if I scroll back up to my top and go back to Sisters in War. So that's part of why it takes so long, is the transfer off of paper onto the actual document itself. And the other thing that takes a very, very long time is research. I actually do research for Feather of Hope, and that's a big component of what takes so long. If I may go back into my docs to go try and find it, chapter 3 of When Only a Feather of Hope Remains, I actually had gotten to the point where I wasn't even naming them yet. If I can go and find it, Second Lieutenant do. I actually also do a lot of changes over in Film. So what I'll do is I'll transfer stuff over and then edit it in Film. So these aren't even my final drafts of it. Um, Here we go. So, uh, Dash's bomb squadron, the 848th, was an actual World War II bomber squadron that flew B-17s. I had to dig through a bunch of old stuff on Wikipedia. That's my sometimes main reference for stuff. I had to go through Wikipedia to find the 848th, and the 848th was a part of the 490th Bomb Group. These aren't just random numbers. And this, and when I was giving the description of like the sheet metal finish and whatnot, I think this picture actually was removed from FIM because of a broken link or something didn't work right. But this is an actual picture of a 490th Bomb Group bomber, and trying to find that and trying to line it up to make sure that it was um, factual and wasn't just something that was random. That was hard enough as it was. Um, and 445651, that again is not a random number that I came up with off the top of my head. That is an actual B-17 tail number. It wasn't just some number that I randomly pulled off the top of my head. I actually went and found a site for B-17s, and that's the tail number of an actual B-17 that was built during World War II. I believe that's a B. I even made sure that that was a B-17E model. So I do a lot of research behind the scenes for you guys for this stuff. It's not just random stuff thrown together here. And that plus K thing, that was a joke that I made to that was a joke I made on my behalf, because I actually did try to find out what those identifying letters meant, and I spent 5 hours at least going through Google and whatnot, and I just could not find a constant explanation that made sense to me. Some of them kind of did, but it was still very complicated in my mind. And I felt if I couldn't make it work in my mind, I couldn't relay it to you guys properly. So I just left it in there as a joke, more to myself than anybody else, because I knew the time that I put in to make that joke a joke. But that's the thing, guys. This actually takes such a large amount of time to create. And if I can find, I actually have written so much for When Only a Feather of Hope Remains. There it is. I actually have a binder full of it. And stuff like the actual original first chapter of the story went through, I believe, I've counted it so many times. I believe it went through 7 different incarnations before it actually came out as what it was. Originally, Chapter 1 was spread out over 4 chapters. That was like my first 2 incarnations, it was that. And it wasn't until like the 5th where I put everything into 1. I had it originally spread out as 4, and then I cut it down to 2, the journey out and the return journey. And it was I have such a mess of stuff. Like, when it comes to Feather of Hope, what you guys get is like the 4th version of what I've written. I mean, half of the stuff that I have in this binder, which is easily over 70 pages of writing, handwriting that I've done just for this story. Each incarnation of it probably is about half the actual length of what gets uploaded to FIM. So it's a very long, extensive process for me. And that's why, especially Feather of Hope, takes so long. It's because of all that. And the reason, especially Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, took so long, and this is more a problem with my writing style than anything else, is because Chapter 4 in chapter 5, which I'm not going to give any spoilers to, all I'm going to say is that they're both quote unquote filler chapters. They're not really filler just to increase my word count or anything. They're there for, I guess you could say they're exposition, but they're not really exposition. They continue to advance the story, as you obviously saw with chapter 4, and you will eventually see with chapter 5. But you've seen how I write. I like to write action. I like to write something that's involving and and blah 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 blah. And to write something so unlike that, I'm not very good with character development. If you've seen, I'm sure most of Dash's crew, you just look at and their names there, and I'm trying to work on that problem. Um, it Character development is just such a hard thing for me, unfortunately, and that's why I skip over it a lot. But 4 and 5 have forced me to write character development, which I'm not very good at, and because of that, they're taking so much longer than a normal chapter would. So, unfortunately, that's why it takes so long, and I'm sorry that this video took so long to come out, because I promised it. Well, I promised an explanation, and I had always planned for it to be a video, because I felt it would be easier than writing a really long blog post that many wouldn't read. I just wanted you guys to see this. And in past, I have done things where I've given, because of how long it's taken me, I've given shots of what I have currently written, but I don't want to do that here. I don't want to do that for a number of reasons, which I'm not going to explain. They're my own reasons. You guys don't need to worry about them. So that's all it is for Wolf 4. It's coming along. There's going to be a lot of chapters posted soon. It's just a matter of me getting the time and really getting the mental fortitude to just trudge through my own writing and expand on it, because a lot of it is the problem is I have to expand on it and make it make sense to you guys instead of just ideas to me. And I just gotta get it done. And I'm really sorry for you guys, because you're the ones suffering in all this, because you guys want this story to get done. So I just want to put this out there to you all. Wolf War isn't dead, Guild isn't dead, and Asphalt Cowboys isn't dead, even though Asphalt Cowboys is relatively new. None of my stories are dead. I'm not putting any of them on hiatus, because I am continuing to work on them. I have never stopped working on them. It's just had to slow because of real life and my own inability and inefficiency in writing. So I hope that all makes sense to you guys. And I hope you can forgive me for that. And there's just one more thing that I would like to point out before I close this video off, just for an example, to show how much time and effort that I put in to these stories to make them as realistic as possible. If I backtrack a bit through all the... Oh, actually, here we go. Actually, no, I can't open that, because I'll show off something that I am not allowed to show off by my own desires. I'm sorry, guys. It is very tired, very tired. I'm very tired. It's very late in the night, early in the morning for me. Where I am right now, it's just past 1, so I'm sorry if this video is dragging along and I have a very monotone voice. It's because I am excruciatingly tired, but this is the only time I ever get work done, because it's the only free time I have, really. If I may cast your mind to Railway Side Chapter 1, just really quick, Guild of Equestrian Railwaymen Side Chapter 1, Heavy Haul, which was where Dusty and Stokes took their HG-10 9366 up the Tall Tale grade with a 650. Well, actually, the HG-10 is a good example. The HG-10, I put a lot of time and effort in to make realistic as much as I could, but what I really wanted to point out with this because I don't have any like solid evidence for what I did for the HG10. That was mostly just tractive effort estimates and coal and water tender measurements. That was really the only extensiveness that I put into that. Um, but if I can get here we go. So the tall tail grade, 1.7 per, or the old grade tall tail side is a 1.7 for 59 miles, and that I'd have to go find the papers again. I believe that ends up being an elevation of like 5,700 feet rise in elevation. That's they're obviously not at sea level. Um, but that wasn't what I was trying to point out. The Vancouver grade is a 40-mile climb. And I knew you guys wouldn't do the math. No offense to any of you, but I knew you wouldn't do the math. But I needed to do the math. Oh, great, my Wi-Fi just went. Well, it's a good thing I don't need Wi-Fi for my recording software, but I need it for Google. So this is going to be the end of the video. I knew you weren't going to do the math, but I wanted the 40-mile climb and the 50-mile climb to line up perfectly with their elevation rises. I cannot tell you how much time that took to end up with the 3-mile 1.9, the 11-mile 2.5, the 2-mile 1.9, then the 8-mile 2.3, the 1-mile 2. Or the 1.9 for 2 miles. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. I'm trying to say this quickly. And then Nightmare at 14 miles. All of that brings in, I think it was off by like 3 feet in the end. The exact same climb as the 1.7 for 59 miles. And to figure that out took nearly an entire day on its own. And I think it's 5 pages of paper that I used for all my different calculations, for all the different grade changes and whatnot. Oh my god, I literally just spent at least 5 hours, and I'm using 5 hours again as I did with the Google search, but I really did. I spent 5 hours sitting at my computer desk with my computer's internal calculator pulled up, a piece of paper and a pen, just yelling at myself at why I was doing this as I was figuring out grade changes. And I just sat here and did it for 5 hours straight. I did it at night because that's the only time I had, so I was dead tired in the morning. And it took forever, but I finally got it done. And I felt so good because I knew that everything was correct. I knew you guys wouldn't check it, but it was so important to me to make sure that it was realistic, and it was the same, that I just sat here for 5 hours busting it out and making sure that those elevation changes were the same. Oh my god, that was a really long night of really boring stuff listening to Spotify on repeat. At that point I think it was a 2-hour long Spotify playlist, and I just listened to that on repeat 2 times through entirely. And it took so long. You do not understand how long that took. And there's something coming up. I can't show it to you, and I can't disclose it, and I will come back on when the time comes. There is something in chapter 4. It is 4. Everything's 4. Chapter 4 of Guild of Equestrian Railwaymen that came out that took even longer than figuring out these grade changes. It literally, and I'm not even joking about this. I have people who can back me up on this statement. It took nearly 2 weeks of constant changing and perfecting and calculation checking and formula checking to make sure everything was correct and make it realistic, even though it's non-realistic, but I made it as realistically as physically possible, and that's going to be showed off in chapter 4, and I will come back because I don't go into the extensiveness in chapter 4 because a lot of it's just BS that you guys don't need to worry about. But I needed to know. I needed to know it to make sure that I had my calculations correct. And oh my god, it took forever. But I'm pretty sure this video is probably around 20 minutes at this point. I'm pretty sure you didn't want to listen to my late night ramblings for 20 minutes about excuses on why my stories are taking so goddamn long. So I will let you guys go. This has been Bucking Bronco 1968, aka Mason, signing off. I'm heading to bed, and I hope you guys can somewhat understand what takes me so long to get this stuff out now. And I hope that you can forgive me for that. And I have some, and when my chapters all come out soon, I hope that you guys will be happy with the results, and I hope you guys will be excited to see more because there's definitely more in the pipe work. I'm gonna spoil this now just slightly. There's probably gonna be about 10 main chapters of Guild of Equestrian Railway Men. I don't know how many versions of Asphalt Cowboys there's gonna be. At least six one shots, probably more. And there's going to be around 10, maybe 12 main chapters for When Only a Feather of Hope Remains, and I'm only halfway through that. Why do I do this to myself? So I hope you guys are willing to stick with me for the long haul on this because there is a lot that's coming up. Oh my god, I just remembered something. This was meant to be said earlier, but I forgot about it in my tiredness. I'm sorry for keeping you guys, even though I said I was ending the video, and I'll make this quick. If you are a long time follower of my fanfiction page, you will know that Wolf War actually isn't the original Wolf War. There was originally, it was originally named But War Can Damn Well Try, and that was my first attempt at writing a fanfiction story, and I thought I was doing really good, but I really wasn't. My chapters were only about 1,000 words long. They were really badly put together. There was a bunch of spelling errors and whatnot, and there was just a bunch of holes in my logic, and oh my god, it was terrible. So I completely deleted that, and everything ended up going back into When Only a Feather of Hope Remains. And a lot of ideas from War Can Damn Well Try were scrapped because there was just no way for them to work, and there was no way that they made sense, and it was a lot more gruesome. Like, oh my god, I still remember this one thing that I wrote in there, which just was... I don't know why I came up with it. It was a terrible idea. I wrote like 4 or 5 chapters for that, and they didn't even add up to a quarter of what the first chapter for Wolf War was. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I said that I was going to write an entire long, double-digit Fims fiction story. But I know now. I now understand why writers take so long. So to anybody who I've ever followed, I'm not for their stories, and if I have ever given you grief about how long your chapters take to come out and your updates take to come out, I am so sorry because I get it now, and it is hell. And I don't even get half of the comments that you guys probably get begging for new chapters. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is Mason actually signing off. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little update. I hope you guys will stick with me for the long haul to see where all this stuff goes and where everything ends. It's been great. It's going to be great. And I'm sorry to say this. I'm just going to give this spoiler now. Nothing's going to be completed in 2018. Guild and Wolf War, they're not going to be done in 2018. I'm sorry, but it's not. I'm sorry. I'm tracking it up for you guys. But that's all I can do. I'm doing my best. I hope you guys have a good day, a good night. I need to go to bed. I'm delirious. See you guys later. Mason out.